At 63, senior lawyer Wafula Chebukati may have achieved one of the highest crowns for a Kenyan lawyer, beating all odds to midwife democracy into highly contested national elections. He came close to throwing in the towel barely a year into the job, having to read the Riot Act against two of the most divisive political figures in 2017. However, the 2022 presidential election will remain the most important for Chebukati's career, whose outcome thrust William Ruto to the presidency. In Ruto's eyes, Chebukati was the hero of that election, but to the Raila Odinga-led opposition, he may well be the worst thing that ever happened to Odinga's political career. Sam Gituku looks back at the path Chebukati walked, managing to ride the storm to become the first ever chair of the Kenyan Electoral Commission to successfully complete his term.
And we finished the term, three of us, Professor Gulia and Molu, they are in the room, and we feel we have done our best for the country.
When on the 17th of January 2023, Chebukati stood before President William Ruto, that statement of completing a 6-year term had deeper meaning than the words in it. Here was a man taking pride for withstanding numerous obstacles that had been planted in his way from the day he expressed his interest in the position of IEBC chairperson up until the day he eventually called it a day.
It shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Different accounts indicate he may not have been the best candidate from the interviews, but that didn't stop President Uhuru Kenyatta from picking him back in January 2017.
So I'm not here as a job seeker. I'm here to serve my country. When I applied for this job, I did not talk to anyone and nobody talked to me, even when I was shortlisted.
A man who had practiced law for over 3 decades now faced the headache of managing a high-stake general election with less than 7 months to plan. Chebukati came to office during drastic reforms to the management of the elections and presidential election results that were heavily built on the foundation of technology. 7 months later, an election he midwifed was nullified for failing in the test of integrity in the process, becoming the first presidential election returning officer in Africa to suffer that fate.
That the presidential election held on 8th August 2017 was not conducted in accordance with the Constitution and the applicable law, rendering the declared results invalid, null, and void.
It was the first major test for Chebukati, who immediately swung into action to establish what had caused the legal gaps. The political pressure was too high, forcing him to push aside his then Chief Executive Officer, Ezra Chiloba, during the repeat presidential election of 26th of October 2017. Even though the election petitioner Raila Odinga deserted the repeat election, Chebukati proceeded with a poll, returning a 98% vote for Uhuru Kenyatta. By this time, Chebukati had lost his most trusted commissioner, Roslyn Akombe, who resigned while on transit to the United States in what had been expected an official trip to monitor the printing of presidential ballot papers in Dubai. It is then that Chebukati was forced to read the Riot Act to President Kenyatta and candidate Raila Odinga.
As the referee, I want to issue a stern warning to the players of this game on all sides that they should stop all attempts to interfere with the process. The failure to do this will result in consequences, as I've made up my mind to uphold the Constitution and the will of the people of Kenya, regardless of threats, intimidation and pressure.
Chebukati's leadership style was heavily tested when in April 2018, 3 other commissioners, Consolat and Kada, Paul Kurgat, and Margaret Mochanya resigned, accusing him of chasing individual glory.
Given this severe deterioration of confidence in the commission chair, we find our position as commissioners under his leadership no longer tenable.
They opposed the audit of the procurements for elections. And they didn't want us to ask the CEO any questions.
For 3 years, Chebukati led a half-constituted commission. His calls for declaration of vacancies and subsequent recruitment going ignored. And when Parliament eventually amended the IEBC law, paving way for recruitment of 4 new commissioners, Chebukati and team had gone to the depth of preparing for the 2022 general election. Commissioners Juliana Cherera, Irene Masit, Justus Nyang'aya and Francis Wanderi were sworn in September 2021, 11 months to the polls. It is in those months to the election that Chebukati's leadership style was again put to the test. The 4 would later appear to have formed a camp of newcomers, while Chebukati stuck with the 2 now veteran commissioners. And the end was ugly. On the afternoon of August 15, 2022, Chebukati led a divided boardroom to the final stretch of the presidential election.
The 4 of us, we are here, not at Bomas of Kenya, where the result is going to be announced, because of the opaque nature of how this phase has been handled.
Chebukati would later claim in an affidavit to the Supreme Court that the National Security Advisory Council had been sent to the Bomas of Kenya to alter the electoral outcome.
They said we should consider declaring the Asmio presidential candidate as the winner, and in the worst case scenario, we look at a way of moderating results so that there's a runoff.
Chebukati's first attempt to declare the election outcome failed. The second attempt featured the presence of then Deputy President William Ruto, the winner in the presidential election. For the months and years following, August 15 remained the day of reckoning for both Ruto and Chebukati.
If Chebukati were to tell you the kind of hell he went through, yeah? If the day the story of August 15th will be told in Kenya, yeah? You will know why I am delaying.
It was no surprise that on the day Chebukati, Molu and Gulia eventually left office, their reflections were trailed on the day.
The Commission wrote to the President of the Republic of Kenya requesting for a public inquiry in respect of the process leading to the declaration of the final results at the Bomas of Kenya.
And it kept getting worse with the claims.
There was a direct attempt to abduct Wafula Chebukati and murder him so that the commission would be paralyzed, or a compliant commissioner take over and subvert the people's sovereignty.
Chebukati spent the months after leaving office presenting conference papers, addressing symposia and seminars globally, calling for independence of electoral bodies in the wake of charged political contests and unrelenting state interferences in outcomes of democratic processes.
As election managers, what do you do under that stress? What are you expected to do? And my answer is very simple. Fidelity to the law, follow the constitution.
Chebukati will also be remembered for several unanswered questions, including the killing of electoral officials, among them senior ICT official Chris Msando, murdered weeks to the August 2017 election, Embakasi East constituency returning officer Daniel Musyoka, killed within the August 2022 election. As to his legacy, the jury is still out. What's not in doubt is that he stood firm against government interference in an election, which some now accuse him of siding with the alternative candidate.
I exceed a very contented man, and I say we gave it our best.
And I want to say Chebukati is the hero of this election.
Sam Gituko, Citizen TV.